another time, Prabhupada was coming down the steps of Henry Street Temple. And Henry Street was a very narrow street, and my car was surrounded by devotees. And I was sitting in the driver's seat. And I was thinking, well, I better offer obeisances to Prabhupada, because at one time I didn't and I got in trouble. I'll tell that story in a moment. So I was thinking, well, I better offer obeisances to Prabhupada, but how can I do it? I can't open the door, there's not enough room, what am I going to do? And I'm just debating mentally on this, and Prabhupada's getting closer to the car. I said, well, I'll offer on the seat. Then somebody's opening the door. Well, I'll offer it, and I sort of started crunching behind the steering wheel, trying to offer obeisances, and Prabhupada gets in the car, looks at me, pats me on the head, and goes, that's okay. Then another time, I was in New York, in the hallway between Henry Street, between Prabhupada's quarters and the temple room. It's a very narrow hallway, and it was lined with devotees, and Prabhupada was walking. And I don't remember the year, but maybe it was 73. And I was embarrassed. I said, boy, people join, they're initiated in 6 months. I'm not even initiated yet. Though I think I was chanting 16 rounds in, but not even initiated yet. And I don't render any service. I was in graduate school. I was very, very embarrassed. I didn't want even Prabhupada to see me. So what I did is when the Prabhupada stepped out of his room, devotees offer obeisances, I hit the dirt immediately. And I said the prayers as slow as I could. So by the time I stood up, Prabhupada would have walked by. Usually devotees say the prayers real quick and stand up so they can see Prabhupada. But I said it real slow. But Prabhupada stopped in front of me. I didn't even know he saw me. And waited till I was done. And I was slow. And then I stood up, and there was Prabhupada right next to me. And he says, he said, nice to see you, and put his arm around me and gave me a hug. And I was amazed.
Well, it's embarrassing to say this in front of all the assembled Vaishnavas, but Prabhupada did tell me one time that I was the king of fault finders. Because he would give me a teaching, and my deepest internal intent was to share it. And somehow, because of my ego, when I would share it, it would sound like fault finding, and there was some of that there. So one of his instructions to me was to give that up, to really take all the instructions and apply them right here, and not worry what anybody else is doing.
Srila Prabhupada treated me like his daughter. I joined the temple with my brother Krishnadas, and we were both the youngest devotees there. So he treated me like his daughter. Sometimes he would ask me or tell me certain things that showed that he was concerned about me. For instance, he told the brahmacharis to tell me to finish high school, to not have any boyfriends, that when I finished high school he would get me married. On a walk he told me, he asked me once, very concerned about, how I was feeling, and he said, are you sufficiently covered? So it was these little things that Prabhupada said to me that strengthened my connection with him. I wasn't so actually interested in the philosophy a whole lot. I like the chanting, but it's Prabhupada's personal interest in me that encouraged me, and actually for many years that kept me enlivened to continue devotional service.
I remember one morning, it was a chilly morning in Los Angeles, and Prabhupada would wear his kurta, and then he had 2 chadars put together that he would wear. And one morning I was a little late in getting the car ready, and I ran out and all I had was a kurta on. So we were walking in Cheviot Hills Park, and I would always walk a couple steps behind him. So I was walking, I was cold, but I was walking along, and Prabhupada turned around, and so, just like a brother, he said, "You're cold. Here, take one of these." And he took off his chadars and pulled them apart. I said, "No, Prabhupada, I'm okay." He said, no, you're cold. Wear this." And I, again, I said, "Prabhupada, these are your chadars." He said, "No, wear it. You're cold." So I took his chadar and wore it for the rest of the walk. So kind, My feeling was so much awe and reverence And he accepted that because that's Lord Chaitanya's instruction, is to be the guru, and that, that's how he can assist me to develop love for Krishna. And his heart was just so much there and present.
Yeah, there was one professor in Philadelphia that was cultivating and then brought him to, and we thought, oh, he's teaching a temple and he has all these students. He's an Indian, and so we're expecting Prabhupada, because we've seen Prabhupada. We've talked to a few professors, and he was cordial and nice. In LA, we used to sit in and he'd talk to some of the professors in his garden, and so in this way, this was our business, meeting professors and every day and preaching and trying to connect things to help get elicit reviews and get our books in libraries and colleges and be as textbooks all over the world. So this happened at this one place. They invited this Indian professor in, and we thought, he was the head professor on campus, and probably was going to be very nice. And so we got him in there, and Prabhupada just blasted him, just tore into him, blasted him, and called him cheater, and practically like annihilated in his darshan room, and then the person left, and we were like all shocked because he was the big person on campus, but Prabhupada didn't care. He was, as far as he's concerned, he was cheating the people. He was cheating his students and mocking like that. So we learned that actually those who were a little bit successful in the library party, we appreciated the service that we were doing, but we realized we were in one sense in the enemy's camp. They were Mayaprityagyana, many of them, and their business was to downgrade and sort of make mythologicalize the teachings of Lord Krishna. And so our business was to engage them and to have them write reviews and use them for the sake of of Krishna's goals, to solicit to be able to sponsor our books and get them into the universities and colleges, and that let the students get a chance to examine them. So it was a good training that Prabhupada. We didn't have that appreciation for the professors in the sense of like being attracted to what they were teaching is truthful. So in that sense, we were always in disguise as enemy agents in another camp.
After I met Prabhupada in Mayapur, then I saw him again in Calcutta a few weeks later. I had to go back to Bihar, and then I went back to Calcutta, and I saw Prabhupada and said, "Do you have any questions?" So I said, "Well, Prabhupada, devotees are telling me to offer my food to Krishna," because everyone was preaching to me whenever I was with the devotees. I was the only Westerner there who wasn't a devotee. So, boy, did I get preached to. So you must offer your food to Krishna. So I said to Prabhupada, "Well, I can't offer my food to Krishna because I don't know that Krishna is God." I think about it now, well, I don't think it's the most brilliant question, but anyway, I had said that to Prabhupada. So Prabhupada's response was, "Oh, that's okay, but then you thank God for the food." And I blurted out, "Oh, I should thank God silently." I don't know what made me say it. Super Soul kicked me and made me blurt it out. And then Prabhupada said, "No, you should out loud thank God for the food so you can explain to everyone what you're doing." So that tiny bit of faith I had that there's God and that we can at least thank God for the food, Prabhupada wanted me to use that tiny bit of realization I had to become a preacher and preach. And so I was amazed by how Prabhupada could deal practically with everything. When Atreya Rishi came in and Prabhupada was so sick, he used his sickness to convince Atreya Rishi that that the body and the soul are different. So Prabhupada was very practical and very compassionate. He knew just when I needed a little encouragement, a pat on the head, and just when I needed a chastisement, which may be just through a stare. So practical, compassionate, totally philosophical, and detached. He wanted us to be Krishna conscious, but for our benefit. And I always had the impression whoever Prabhupada was speaking to, he was speaking to them for their benefit, not his benefit. Because myself, I'm preaching, I might be thinking, how many points am I going to get? Am I going to do this? My benefit. When Prabhupada was speaking to you, you knew he was speaking to you for your benefit. And everyone in the room knew that.